If you've watched some of my videos before, you'll know that I've been running a series of reviews called Keep or Sell for just over a year at this point. Behind the scenes, I've been saving up the money from every sale, as well as putting aside extra each month to save up for a big purchase. I was weighing up a choice between three things as an end goal: either a Washi Dial Citizen, a Grand Seiko Spring Drive, or a Cartier de Santos. However, after putting together a video dedicated to researching the Spring Drive and the models within that range, my mind was made up. After spending an inordinate amount of time browsing the second-hand market when a good deal eventually came up, I was there just as the listing went live. I was, of course, impulsive. This video will focus on not only reviewing the watch, but discussing whether I think investing so much in a piece like this is worthwhile. With all that said, let's get into the video. What seems like the logical and most pertinent place to start is, why would anyone want to own a Spring Drive anyway? What is it and what makes it special? Essentially, it's the life's work of Yoshikazu Akahane, a man who wanted to find a way of marrying the precision and accuracy of a quartz movement with the beauty and craftsmanship of a traditional mechanical one. His eventual creation, the Spring Drive, uses a mainspring, either hand-wound or automatic, to power the hands of the watch, but also to spin the glide wheel. This has two functions. It generates enough electricity to power a tiny onboard integrated circuit and crystal oscillator. The circuit detects the spin speed of the glide wheel and, using the electrical signals from the crystal oscillator, adjusts the spin speed by applying and releasing an electromagnetic brake, allowing for the accuracy of the watch. This is all done with the small charge generated by the glide wheel itself. In essence, you end up with a watch that doesn't require a battery, is as accurate over a month as a quartz piece, has all the beautiful finishing you'd expect to see in a mechanical or automatic piece, and perhaps most impressively of all, has the smoothest sweeping second hand of any watch I've ever seen. Everything else I own is frankly embarrassing by comparison to this movement. Of course, there are arguably more impressive mechanical and automatic movements out there with a wide range of intricate complications that make the mind boggle. But they are all so far outside of my budget and frame of reference that the Spring Drive essentially becomes my grail when it comes to watch movements. In honesty, when I was looking at buying a Spring Drive, I always had my heart set on the Cherry Blossom Shunbun. However, after extensive window shopping, there were three things putting me off a purchase. First was that I would need to save for at least another 7 or 8 months to be able to afford even the cheapest second-hand model. And the name of the channel is not accidental, so I would really have struggled with that. Secondly, a dress-style Garter watch isn't something that my collection is missing. And finally, I realised that I'm not a huge fan of the style of caseback of the model. Upon that realisation, I spread my search wider and stumbled across the GMT Elegant Seasons collection. 4 watches, 1 for each season. All GMTs, but 2 powered by high beat automatics and 2 powered by the Spring Drive. This idea appealed to me as I already have a Grand Seiko Quartz GMT. Suddenly, I was hooked on the idea of having a complete set of their signature movements. 1 quartz, 1 mechanical, and 1 Spring Drive. All GMTs if possible. Within the collection, there is the spring grass styled Shunbun, the icy Shosho, the crisp Toji, and the deep dark dial of the Canro, which is ultimately the one that I went for. I think a fair criticism of the Canro is actually that dial. Grand Seiko are known for their Spring Drive, their Zaratsu polishing, overall build quality, sword hands, but perhaps above all else, their dials. If you look at the promotional images of the Canro and compare it with some of the footage that I've captured, I'm sure you'll be able to pick out why some people feel the dial is an issue here. Put simply, under a lot of lighting conditions, the dial just looks like a flat matte black. I think when buying a watch with a recommended retail price of $6,500, you can see why some people might feel shortchanged when wearing the watch and not being able to see that complex texture work on the dial. Now, to be clear, the watch came out originally in 2021, and I paid just under half the recommended retail price for mine second hand, which is in pretty good condition except for one tiny ding by the crown. A flex, this most definitely is not. I had also read a lot of reviews about this particular piece before buying one, so I went into the purchase well aware that the texture would not always be visible. My perspective on it is slightly different though. I think this is a piece that exudes some subtlety in public and only really reveals its true beauty on a personal level. It's for the enjoyment of the wearer and no one else, and that's something I really appreciate. You do need the right light to see it at its best though, so I can fully appreciate the criticism. As discussed, the Canro is part of the Elegant Seasons collection. More specifically, it is the model that represents autumn. But Japan actually splits each of the 4 seasons into 6 distinct phases referred to as Seki. So the Canro doesn't just represent autumn, it represents its namesake, the 5th Seki of autumn. Grand Seiko describes this as the time when the sun sets ever earlier and there is more of a chill in the morning air. The dial is designed to represent the calm, cold night sky, with the gliding second hand representing the moon travelling silently across it. That's probably as close as horology gets to poetry, and certainly enough to make me love the design of the dial just a little more. While magnificent in my opinion, let's not dwell on that dial too much and instead look over the rest of the specifications. The Canro is 40.2mm in diameter, 48.5 lug to lug, a solid middle ground size that will fit most people, but that lug to lug can be deceptive and make it wear a little large. The model comes with an exhibition caseback and box-shaped sapphire crystal with anti-reflective undercoating. The specific movement it uses is the 9R66, their standard spring drive caliber for automatic GMT pieces since around 2006. The 9R66 is quite a thick movement given its high component count, hybrid nature and automatic rotor. It comes in at just under 6mm thick in and of itself. When you factor in the other mentioned components, the Canro ends up being 14mm thick, which is well beyond my usual preferences, I must admit, but I was always going to have to make a compromise somewhere. The watch weighs in at 152 grams, and I think another common complaint that people would raise about it is the bracelet. The issue is definitely not with the construction, it's rock solid, and while people often complain about the quality of regular Seiko bracelets, no corners have been cut here. The issue is with the design, as there is no taper to the bracelet, and that comes down, at least in part, to Japanese design philosophy. It's more minimalist and purposeful. Not only that, but Grand Seiko watches have very conservative design evolution to them. Despite their wonderful range of dials, the actual styling of the watches they produce changes very little over time. While it is now possible to buy spring drive models on tapered bracelets with newer, thinner variants of the movement, they're beyond my spend capability, and I'm more than happy with the Canro for what it is. Essentially, if you want a spring drive on a budget, you need to know the watches are going to be a little thicker than you might expect, and if you don't like an untapered bracelet, get one on a leather strap instead. I would say that the lug to lug, weight and height do give this watch a profile and presence that is probably just at the upper end of what I think I can pull off personally, but it does still fit under a cuff and it is comfortable to wear. There's full size and micro links, so you can guarantee a good fit, but I do think that some on the fly adjustment would have been appreciated at this price point. That just comes back to my point about Grand Seiko being very set about their design ideas and slow to incorporate new ones though. One thing that really does set this watch apart in a way that I appreciate is that it doesn't have a GMT bezel. Instead, the numerals required for functionality of the complication are printed around the outside of the dial. For me, I see this as a benefit, not because I don't like GMT bezels, but because it makes this watch distinct from my quartz piece from the brand. In my mind, that makes it feel like a collection that covers more bases, though in reality the difference is very minor. To wrap things up, I'd like to come full circle back around to the question at the start of the video, which was quite simply, was it worth it? Would I save up again over the course of a year for this watch? For me, the answer is a resounding yes. I'm actually very happy with my purchase. But I do hope that some of the words of caution raised throughout this video are useful to you, the audience, because if, like me, you have to save for a long period of time to be able to buy something at this price point, you really want to make sure you'll be happy before you take the plunge. If that is a concern for you, I'd recommend looking at retailers and sellers online who offer a cooling off period for purchases, where you can return the watch within a set window of time if you aren't entirely satisfied. As for me, I've now got to give some serious thought to the next big buy to save for. Do I want to finish my Grand Seiko trio, or is it Washi Dial or De Santos time? I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's big talk for a channel like mine that focuses on budget pieces. But rest assured, I'm not joking about the saving that took place. So you're really only going to see one big buy a year on this channel at absolute maximum. The rest of my content will remain focused on far more affordable pieces. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this in future.